and welcome to another episode of Up Street Any Road. The basic idea of Up Street Any Road is that you can go up street any road in Prescot, anywhere you like, and you will find history. Now, you may have noticed from the title of this video, it's about Prescot's forgotten street. I'm actually on Leyland Street at the moment, at the junction of Eccleston Street. Leyland Street is not a forgotten street. In fact, this street is less than 100 years old. It was actually finished in 1927. In 1906, this street didn't exist. There was another street here, and a more important street than Leyland Street. Leyland Street is important now because it's the main cut through from Eccleston Street up to the High Street, and it was actually started building Leyland Street in 1908, but before that there was a forgotten street here which existed for over 150 years, and it followed the old ancient boundary lines of the field boundaries, the medieval street boundaries, and we're going to have a look at that now. So let's go and discover Prescot's hidden street. Come with me. Okay, as a kid, as a young boy, I passed this nondescript passageway here between Pinion restaurants here on the right and real-time amusements on the left. So I would pass this regularly and think nothing of it. It's a nondescript alley. But in actual fact, this is the last remaining remnants of what was known as T Street, or T Street, T-E-E. We don't know where the name came from, but this street down here is a very old street, and it was the main through road to the High Street. No longer is, but it was the main through road, and we're going to go up now and explore T Street. We're at the end of T Street. This is the very end of T Street, the remnants of what was T Street. T Street went right on to the High Street up there. On this street, in the 1901 census, there were 22 houses on this street. People had lived here for 150 years. They brought up families here. They had children here. They worked from here. There were watchmakers who lived here. There were in 1850s, the Irish immigrants settled here. First generation Irish came to Prescot and had their children here and grew up here. This was a thriving street, and it's much forgotten. People just walk past it. It just looks like an access alleyway to the shops and the Pinion restaurant there. But it was more than that. So Prescot, for 150 years, it was a place of habitation. And that's where the street name comes from. Street actually refers to a place of habitation. And there's a well-known photograph that was shared on Born and Raised in Prescot a few years ago by John Hopkins, and it was actually taken from this spot here, looking up to the High Street. And you can see people standing on the street for the photographer in 1890, and they would just bemused by this camera. And you can see right the way to the high street there. It was a forgotten world. It was approximately on this point here. Where the street turns left here, this was part of Mill Hill. Mill Hill also appears on the other side of this building. It's now called Mill Street, but at the time of T Street was here, it was called Mill Hill, because there was a windmill at the top. So what we'll do now is we'll go back down T Street, and as we go back down, you'll be able to see the sorry. Okay, we're gonna. Yeah, we'll be finished soon. As we go back down Mill Street. As we go back down T Street, you'll see the curve of the street. It curves around here, and that's because it follows the medieval field boundary that was laid out in 1592. When William Shakespeare was a lad, when he came to Prescot, he would have known this field boundary, because it was a field. And the buildings here, the curved buildings that were built in, actually this was the last part to be developed. These buildings were built in the 1930s. The Woolworths store, which is next but one, that opened in 1935. And Pinion's restaurant, or the building, is a 1930s Art Deco building. So these buildings are not the original, but they actually follow the medieval lines, which is fascinating, isn't it? So let's walk down, and we'll see where T Street comes out at the other side of this building, and we'll follow it onto the high street. So let's have a look at that. Old bricked up windows here from the 1930s building. They must have used them at some time. All 1930s brickwork. You don't want to get locked in here, especially on a Saturday night. We've been told by the management of the Pinion restaurant that apparently it's a bit rowdy.
Your word? I'm not going to ship that. Not sure.
Okay, we'll go down Leyland Street now. So this is the last part of Leyland Street to be developed. This was in 1930s. 1935, Woolworths opened the store here, and this was one of the very first department stores in Prescot. They started building here much earlier. These are some from Edwardian period, probably about 1912. This end of the street is older than this end of the street. So this is Hill Street, and at about this point here, we're actually behind the building, the track of T Street. T Street went through here, would have come about this point approximately, and it would have gone across this road here and through this building here, which you can see at this point. This part here didn't exist. This was houses. There was no Leyland Street, remember? This was just all houses all around there. So T Street would continue this way, and it would, going up here, would be called Mill Hill. That would have been a hill that went up to the windmill, and that's why it was called Mill Hill, up that way. So obviously nothing of T Street exists at this point. If we go on to the high street, let's see where it came out. Edwardian buildings that have been renovated. They're quite beautiful. But of course in the 1930s there were no shops on this street at all. These were all residential houses. So, between these two houses here, which would have been normal houses, would have been the exit to T Street. T Street would have come out where these houses are now, onto the High Street here. And there was a building here, which you will see in the photograph that I've put up, which was actually there before that was there. That building was there. That's been rebuilt. But this is the exit to T Street. So I'm going to go back down here, but before I do, I want to tell you about these potatoes. And there is a connection between these potatoes and Prescot, because these are Irish lumpers. And they were the mainstay of Irish farmers, and they were implicated in the potato famine of 1845 to 1852, and they were grown all over Ireland, but during the potato famine they failed and became a victim to blight. So the potato famine, also known as the Great Hunger, meant that 1 million people in Ireland died. It was a political thing, really. It wasn't the fault of the Irish people, it was the fault of the British government, who demanded that they would rather feed cattle than people. But that's another story. Anyway, the result of the potato famine meant that a lot of immigrants came to places like Prescot. Prescot was just one place, and T Street actually is where a lot of them settled. First generation Irish settled there in the 1850s, and they grew up. They grew a family. Over the years, it became a kind of a slum, and the houses by that time were already over 100 years old, so that by the end of the 1890s, plans had been drawn up to create a new street, which became Leyland Street, and to demolish the slums on either side here. And you will see the maps that I've put up show you the progression of that, and the rebuilding and the remodelling of a brand new street, which was Leyland Street. So Leyland Street actually became the new T Street, I suppose. It was more modern as well, it was wider, and it was less overcrowded, and it became a bit gentrified as well, which happens when you demolish things and rebuild them, doesn't it? You get rid of the old and bring in the new. So yes, T Street. So by 1906 the council decided to demolish T Street and start again, and it took till 1937 to complete that transformation of this area of Prescot. So that's it, yes. It's actually ironic that on Leyland Street you've got a photograph of T Street just here, and a quote from Shakespeare: "Dost thou think, because thou art virtuous, that there shall be no more cake and ale?" I don't know whether that's appropriate for T Street, but it's there, and it's nice to see T Street being represented on Leyland Street. It's not really forgotten, is it? Okay, I've just got Peter up. Peter, named after Uncle Peter from Prescot, my Uncle Peter, whose lifetime ambition was to fly, to fly in an aeroplane. But he never succeeded in doing that before he died, unfortunately. So I've named this drone after Peter, Uncle Peter. He's actually up there at the moment, about 393 feet. And I'm just going to bring him down, and I've got some aerial shots of this this area here, which shows you the where T Street used to be, and I'm going to bring him down and I'll introduce you to Uncle Peter. So you can view him on the screen here. That's his viewpoint at the moment. You can see where he is, and he's coming down towards us now. It's currently at just over 200 feet. You can see him. There's Uncle Peter flying for Prescot. He's our local history reporter in the sky. I'll just bring Peter in now. And there he is, Peter the drone. This is his first flight over Prescot, so I hope to be seeing more of Peter in forthcoming Born and Raised in Prescot videos, getting some more aerial shots of the town, and finding out a bit more about the history of Prescot through Peter. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this vlog. If you have, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and do all of that stuff that you need to do. Keep watching the videos, and if you see me in Prescot, or you see Catherine, myself and Catherine, our camera woman Tonto,
I am here.
if you see us in Prescot, be sure to say hello. I'd like to give a big shout out to Jed, who recognised us the other day, and also to Cheryl from the watchmaking factory, the flat iron building up the road, who saw us today as well. And anybody who sees us, come and say hello, give us some feedback, tell us what you're doing, how you're finding the videos. It'd be really great to see you. So yep, I hope to see you next time on Born and Raised in Prescot video channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.